this meeting of the Clackamas County Commission to order for the first meeting of the new year. Welcome, and if you would, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Aha, here. I need to announce that earlier we had on the agenda that Congressman Schrader was going to be here today, but he had some other scheduling conflicts arise, so he's been rescheduled for the January 26th business meeting. And and that brings us to our public hearings. We have 3 public hearings today, I believe, and these are second readings, and I will turn it over to David Anderson, who is here from County Council, to explain these.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. This is part of our project to update the county code. We're systematically going through it and finding things that are outdated or otherwise in need of change. And this is the first batch of amendments to the county code that we're bringing to you as part of that process. We had the first reading of these 3 on December 22nd, and so today it'll be a second reading and adoption if that be your desire. The first one is an amendment to County Code Chapter 2.08, and this had to do with claim processing procedures for ballot measure 37. But in 2007, of course, the voters of Oregon modified ballot measure 37 and adopted ballot measure 49. And in ballot measure 49, the claim processing procedures are in the Oregon Revised Statutes. These are the claims that a property owner can bring when a new land use regulation has the effect of decreasing the value of their property. They can make a claim under the statutory procedures now for just compensation or for a waiver of the regulation. And so the amendment is, first of all, to repeal the obsolete provisions in the code that had to do with ballot measure 37. And it also contains some amendments relative to ballot measure 49. One of the things in ballot measure 49 is that the county can adopt procedures for how claims would be processed. Now, we haven't had any claims since 2007 when the measure was adopted. However, the potential exists that there might be some at some point in the future. And so we're proposing to designate the person to whom the claim would be addressed and who would process the claim. The statutory language refers to the chief administrative officer of the county, probably the county administrator. That probably isn't the appropriate place to process a claim about diminution in value of real property. So we're proposing that it would go to the Director of Transportation and Development Department or his designee, probably the Planning Director. And so the ordinance amendment has a provision for that, describes how the claim will be processed, and directs that before any monetary compensation be paid, that claim would be directed to the board for its consideration. And that's about the sum of it. So what we'd request at this point would be second reading and adoption.
But we have a public hearing in there before that. So I will open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone who wishes to speak on this. I don't believe I have anyone signed up for it. No. To speak on ordinance number 012012, first ordinance of the year. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and ask the commission what you would like to do here.
Madam Chair, I move we read the ordinance number 01-2012, amending Chapter 2.08, Ballot Measure 37, Claim Processing Procedure, authorized from the Clackamas County Code by title only.
And I second.
Been moved by Commissioner Bernard and seconded by Commissioner Damon that we read the ordinance measure by title only. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. So I will ask the clerk to read.
Okay. This is ordinance number 01-2012, an ordinance repealing and replacing Chapter 2.08, ballot measure 37 claim processing procedure authorization with a new Chapter 2.08, just compensation for land use regulations.
Okay. Then I would ask for a motion to adopt this ordinance.
Madam Chair, I move we adopt ordinance number 01-2012, amending Chapter 2.08, ballot measure number 37, claim processing procedure authorized from the Clackamas County Code.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Bernard and seconded by Commissioner Leininger that we adopt ordinance number 01-2012. Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. And that brings us to our second item, which is ordinance number 02-2012. Oddly enough. Mr.
Okay.
Anderson.
This would add a new chapter 2.14 to the county code pertaining to the county surveyor. First, a little history. Back in 1998, the Board of County Commissioners changed the mode of appointment of the county surveyor. Previously, it had been an elected office. After 1998, it was an appointed office, appointed by the board. And about 11 years, that measure was referred to the voters, by the way, and was approved by the voters back in 1998. About 11 years later, the Oregon legislature kind of caught up to that and changed the statutes pertaining to the county surveyor and provided that the surveyor would be an appointed office unless provided otherwise by the Board of County Commissioners. We don't have anything in our code describing how the county surveyor is appointed, and so this would establish a new chapter about the county surveyor that's similar to what we have about the county administrator and the county council. And it would provide that the county surveyor would be appointed by the county administrator, that he would serve under an employment contract, an at-will employment contract, as an unclassified employee. It's pretty simple. We had first reading December 22nd. Today would be the second reading and the adoption if you find it to your approval.
Okay. With that, I will, excuse me, open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone who would like to speak on ordinance number 02-2012. I don't have any cards. And seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion to read this by title only.
Madam Chair, I move we read ordinance number 02-2012, adding chapter 2.14, county surveyor, to the Clackamas County Code by title only.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Savas and seconded by Commissioner Bernard that we read ordinance number 02-2012 by title only. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously, and I will ask the clerk to read this by title only.
Okay, this is ordinance number 02-2012, an ordinance establishing a procedure for appointment of the county surveyor and repealing ordinance number 16-98.
I would consider a motion.
Chair Leahy, I move we adopt ordinance number 02-2012, adding chapter 2.14, county surveyor, to the Clackamas County Code.
And I second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Leininger and seconded by Commissioner Damon that we adopt ordinance number 02-2012 regarding the county surveyor. Is there any discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Brings us to our third item for public hearing. And I will turn to Mr. Anderson yet again.
This third matter would repeal Chapter 8.08 of the county code, which pertains to adult care homes. Previous to 2009, the county was the licensing agency for adult care homes. However, since then, that has been moved to the state level, and it's now the Oregon Department of Human Services and the Oregon Health Authority that does the licensing of adult foster homes. So we are left with our Chapter 8.08, which no longer serves a function, and therefore this proposed ordinance repeals Chapter 8.08.
Okay,
We had the first reading December 22nd, and so today would be second reading and approval.
all right. With that, I will open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone who would like to speak on this matter regarding adult care homes, and I do not have any cards. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Oh, there are 3 quick public hearings. And ask for a motion to read this by title only.
Chair Lehan, I move we read ordinance number 03-2012, repealing Chapter 8.08 Adult Care Homes from the Clackamas County Code by title only.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Commissioner Damon and seconded by Commissioner Savas that we read ordinance number 03-2012 by title only. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Passes unanimously, and I will ask the clerk to read this by title only.
Okay, this is ordinance number 03-2012, an ordinance repealing Chapter 8.08 Adult Care Homes from the Clackamas County Code.
Okay? With that, I will ask for a motion to adopt.
Madam Chair, I move we adopt ordinance number 03-2012, repealing Chapter 8.08 Adult Care Homes from the Clackamas County Code.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Savas and seconded by Commissioner Leininger that we adopt ordinance number 03-2012, repealing Chapter 8.08 Adult Care Homes in the County Code. Is there any discussion on this one? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. And with that, we've just passed the three first ordinances of the year with a 2012 date on them. And that brings us to discussion items, of which I don't have any set, and also to citizen communication. And under citizen communication, I have Jason Scott with the McLaughlin Area Business Alliance. And you need to give your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes on the clock.
Okay, good morning, Chair Lehan and the Commissioners. My name is Jason Scott. I reside at 2655 Southeast Torbank Road in the Oak Grove area here in Oregon. I am a McLaughlin Area business owner and come before you today as a member of the McLaughlin Area Business Alliance, or MABA. I like many of the McLaughlin Area business owners and managers who are members of the Alliance, live in the local community and hire people from the local community. Because of this fact, we know what does and does not work in our local community. We hear and often express the same observations identified in the McLaughlin Area Plan and the Park Avenue Plan, namely that something needs to happen that will promote a pro-business environment in the unincorporated area that these two plans cover. Input from the area business people go as far back as the McLaughlin Corridor Land Use and Transportation Study. The final report was issued in 1999, this document right here. This time, instead of the business people being individually involved, we have formed a business alliance, currently at 85 members and growing daily, that will enable us to carry a strong, unified voice for the improvements to the area. There are many elements in the current plans that we agree would be beneficial to the promotion of business environment. There are also some elements in the plan that we disagree with. We are compiling these elements of agreement and disagreement in a minority report that we will be submitting next Monday, 1/9/2012, with the intention that it become a part of the two plans as they go before the County Planning Commission, and then continue on their path towards final approval by you, the County Commissioners. We find nothing in the plans that addresses the impact on the local arterials of the River Road and Oatfield Road, resulting from the recommendations from changes to slow down the traffic on the McLaughlin Boulevard. Specific action steps towards the staging of the area to change the look and feel of the McLaughlin corridor itself are also missing from the plans. These are the kinds of items that the Business Alliance Minority Report will contain when submitted on Monday. MABA has adopted a quote that I'd like to leave you with from Robert Jarvik. Leaders are visionaries with a poorly developed sense of fear and no concept of the odds against them. Thank you for your time. We eagerly anticipate your future collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your bringing these items, too. Then the next cards I have are Kevin Johnson and Brian Johnson, I think.
I have 2 pages, so I don't know if I can get through it all. He can finish if I get cut off, I guess. Kevin Johnson, 6970 Winfield Court, Gladstone. I'm the chief petitioner for 2 initiatives that will be on the May ballot in the city of Gladstone. These initiatives are a result of the inept and careless spending of taxpayer money regarding the city's proposed new library building. Any county commissioners that participated in this dreaming up and voting on the library district are complicit in this scam. It was passed by county voters without all the facts and before the behind-the-scenes deals had taken place. Let's start with the written responses to questions from Mariana Moore on December 15, 2011. I don't believe you can prove all of the answers. I request copies of the district direct mailings, the number of mailings and who they were mailed to. I also request copies of the handouts, number of handouts, where they were handed out, details of the presentations, how many, where they were held, and copy of sign-in sheets to find out how many people actually attended. I also want a copy of the voters' pamphlet that you say tells of the impending library closures. I have a printed copy of the library district discussion is presented to the City Council of Johnson City. This is 12 pages of words and graphs, one of which contains a graph showing district funding to other cities. On the bottom of that page is a statement, 2010, 2011, after all county library consolidations are complete. I think a reasonable person would come to the conclusion that cities are going to take over operation of the county libraries, not that the libraries were going to close. This is particularly important because the ballot measure that was voted on said the money was to keep libraries open. I'm interested in seeing the rest of your propaganda, including how much information is missing and what partial truths were published. Now regarding the proposed library in Gladstone. The county gave the city $1 million for its current library, which is the same as other cities. Then Gladstone got another $1.5 million by going along with your scheme to close Oak Grove Library and combine it with theirs. Here are the questions. If the library in Gladstone does not get built, the county gets back the $1.5 million. But what about the original $1 million? Will Gladstone have to give it back? According to the written responses, the money was to spend on construction, remodeling, expansion, building and site improvement, bonded debt service, and on collection development. Wasting $1 million on plans that don't come to fruition is not on that list. So do they get to keep the $1 million or have to give it back? Our illustrious Mayor Byers keeps telling us the library would get built because that's what the Gladstone citizens want. Since he and his comrades didn't let us vote on the library, he must be basing that on a phone survey that they conducted in 2010. You might like to know the results of that survey since you're putting county taxpayer money at risk. They contacted 294 people out of Gladstone's 12,000 residents. 76% say they were satisfied or very satisfied with the current library, and a whopping 11% said they were dissatisfied. 11% of 294, or 33 people. So the city council's approved spending $15.6 million because 33 people aren't happy. Do you think that is a good use of our money? How about the cost of the proposed Gladstone Library? I'm sure you all know about the sustainability building being discussed in Portland at a cost of $434
You're going to need to wrap up or pass it on. Or I'm presuming you're.
I have,
But maybe you should.
I'll give him my 3 minutes.
Well, he needs to give it to you because we can't pass around minutes.
That's why Johnson City got out of the county. Where?
I'm sure you're just as good a reader.
Huh?
I'm sure you're just as good a reader.
How about the cost of the Gladstone proposed library? I'm sure you all know about the sustainability building being discussed in Portland at a cost of almost $434 per square foot, is about double the cost of any other office building in downtown. Gladstone project budget is over $525 a square foot without counting the land costs. Since you gave Gladstone County taxpayers money from the general fund, a reasonable person might want to know how they are wasting it. The question is, do any of you care? What happens to Oak Grove? Again, if Gladstone does not build a new library, will the Oak Grove Library remain open, or will you leave Oak Grove residents without a library? You are collecting the taxes for operating expenses, so what is your plan? Why, then there is Happy Valley. You gave them a building and you remodeled it. The city of Happy Valley has paid nothing. First, why is Happy Valley deal so much better than Gladstone's? Maybe the people of Happy Valley gave you more money for your election campaigns than the other people of Gladstone. Second, if the city of Happy Valley decides they don't want to take care of operating the library, will it also close? You say that you want out of the library business, even though you're collecting taxes to operate it. What is your plan? And if they do not decide to take over operation, will they again get $1 million for collection of development? Why not? It is only county general funds money. I don't think the library district scheme was completely thought out. Maybe it is just that I didn't get enough done before citizens figured out what was really being done. But that is standard government procedure, so I guess nobody should be surprised. Now that your plan to ramrod through this deal in Gladstone with the help of the willing fools on the Gladstone City Council is in serious jeopardy. The days are coming to an end that you waste our money without a vote, the days you recklessly spend taxpayers' money on libraries that aren't needed, on bridges that aren't ours, light rail that is not wanted, and the list goes on, and the taxpayers paying for all this spending have had enough. These days are going to end.
Yeah.
So you got all these, you're going to get those.
Thank
So-
you, gentlemen,
Question.
for coming to offer your perspective on this. I know this is an issue that is really generating a lot of attention and engagement in Gladstone and beyond. Mr. Wheeler, our administrator, I think you may be the one person who was actually on here when the library district was passed. Just as a point of information, everyone on this board.
No one here was there.
Yeah,
No one
the
up
library
here
district
was
was,
here at the time.
I think the library district was passed in
November of '08.
2008.
November of '08, and I think the first of us came to this board in '09. However, I know that a number of representations were made within the community about what the library district would do, and it's clear that you're concerned about what those representations were. But Mr. Wheeler, could you speak to the issue of how that library district measure came into being and the concern it was trying to address and the kind of understanding that it incorporated about what the county's role in terms of running libraries would become?
Yes, in the broad sense, over time, the county had been what I would loosely call a retail operator of several libraries, and then the cities had been operating their own libraries as well. As county resources, financial resources became more and more restricted and tight, we realized that it would be very difficult to continue as a retail operator of libraries. So over time, and some of this predates my time here too, there were numerous discussions about what would happen, how could we maintain library services throughout the county? And what evolved was the district formation, which was eventually passed in November of '08, which essentially all libraries became city libraries in terms of retail operations. We were trending towards that way. And then the taxation went into a district taxation, which pays for the ongoing operations of the libraries. And that's the situation we've been evolving into now. So it really evolved out of a long conversation and realization that the county's viability as a retail provider of library services was not going to work. We still have a capacity, and we do provide transportation services for materials and some of the ongoing administrative overhead for the entire system, but that's a much different position than being a retail operator. And again, that was passed in November of '08. They have mentioned in the letter they read many questions. We could respond to those, not all of them right now, of course, but I think if we got a copy of that, we could respond.
Well, thank you, and thank you for coming in, and thanks for that additional information.
Well, I'm not quite done. I got 8 seconds.
Well,
So I want you to know that the library that's over at the town center now originated in Johnson City.
okay.
And I want you to know, since Johnson City was the only city that voted out of the library district, it costs every person there $95 for a library card. So I'm thinking that taxes are paid by the dwelling, right? Property taxes would give you the money. So if you got a family of 5 that live in a mobile home, do you think you can justify $500 basically for a library card for that family?
Well, it was a long process, and I was certainly not here, but I was at the, I was mayor of a Clackamas County city at the time, and our involvement, my understanding of it at the time, was indeed that the libraries would be consolidating into the cities, and but I do know that the library directors and the cities were involved in a couple of years worth of discussions about how to proceed forward, and of course some cities, Tualatin didn't participate either, opted out, and then later decided to vote themselves in. So
Same with Damascus.
same with Damascus, yeah. So.
So, well, my question, I
it was a
guess,
long
to you,
process.
my question, I guess, to you is the how this all happened. Do you think that that is a feasible thing for $500? Because the city of Gladstone, the city of Johnson City does not belong to the North Clackamas Parks either. You can go use a swimming pool for a couple more dollars because
Yeah.
you don't belong. So my question to you is right now, do you think that $500 for a family of 5 that lives in a mobile home in Johnson City is right for a library card?
I would say they ought to join the district, which is the same conclusion that Tualatin came to.
Okay.
Is
I figured,
that
okay.
that because the Tualatin was in the same
Yes,
same
the
dilemma.
Same with Damascus. Each of those
Damascus.
calculations had to be done, and it was, expensive to be an individual
Yeah.
person member.
Yeah.
I would like, if those folks would leave that letter,
Yeah,
I'd
Caroline's
like a
getting it
copy
right
of it.
now.
Yeah. So any individual questions we could get to? Yes.
In addition, I mean, some of the information requested was actually done by a campaign. So I don't know that we have any of that information, or it's certainly not part of our record. It was all done by a campaign. Believe me, I know. I was out there campaigning.
For the library district.
Yeah, we
Every
have to,
time.
this is an important distinction. The county can provide information on these services, but advocacy would be a separate campaign, and we would not have advocacy.
We wouldn't have that information.
Right.
Okay. The next card I have is Jim Sanders.
Jim Sanders, Milwaukee, address on file. Good morning, Commissioners. My topic is the Milwaukee Light Rail. Oddly enough, can you imagine? I'm here to basically give you one last chance to listen to what over 70% of your constituency is trying to tell you. The people have spoken before on this matter many times. The fact that you refuse to put this to a vote is basically laughable. There can only be a few reasons. These are just my opinions and my opinion only. Reason number one, you might think this boondoggle is the greatest thing ever to come to Milwaukee. You might think that's true, and you think it's going to change everything out here and be the savior of the region. First of all, the region doesn't need saving. And second of all, it will change the region, all right, but in a disgusting, detrimental way. Number two, if there's something we don't know about, it's time to come out. I mean, I'm not saying there's hidden agendas or anything like that, no accusations, but, hidden agendas can be two things. It can be either, a detrimental thing or it could be a good thing. And if it's a good thing, you should tell us if there's something behind the scenes, because we need to know, and it could really change the thought patterns of almost 3/4 of the voting public. Number three, conflict of interest. In my wildest imagination, I cannot even begin to think that there could possibly be one, but if there is one, we will find out about it, and it will definitely not be good for the individual or individuals. For a fact that as soon as we get the ballot title, we will go door to door and get the needed signatures. This time, it's not about funding mechanisms. This is about stopping this thing at the county line. I would think you would be overjoyed if this happened. Then you wouldn't be on the hook for $25 million that you absolutely do not have and cannot find it. Today is the day. You can help us. We don't want to go door to door. It's raining and it's cold, but we will. Also, don't forget about the upcoming elections. When the 3/4 of the voting public see the name and go to the little box, we're going to remember. Today is your chance to possibly put a check by the name of the desired person. All you have to do is make a motion, put this on the ballot, and someone else has to step up and second it. Then our 70% of the people can be proud of our elected officials instead of having to come here and do this. Believe me, we have better things to do. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.
Okay. The next card I have is Yvonne Lazarus, I guess.
Good morning. I'm Yvonne Lazarus, and I live at 2063 Southeast Torbank Road in Milwaukee. I have a couple questions for you to start off with. Is Clackamas County buying the elks? And I also want to know if they're buying the blue herring, and if so, where the money's coming from. And I would like to also maybe get an answer during the commissioner's communication. The next thing that I want to talk about is a couple meetings back, we were talking about the funding of light rail, and under her breath, Charlotte kindly said a bond, and then she kind of backed out of that. No bond, no bond. You also, I'm not sure who it was, I think it was you, Charlotte, that you answered my question by saying the town center's money was, when that was done, that was going to go into the general fund, and you were going to pay for light rail out of that. That isn't a treasure trove. That money belongs to the police, the fire, and my gosh, the schools. You know, it isn't just a little honeypot up there. Commissioner Bernard said we had excess money. If we have, at the last meeting, if we have excess money, we'd sure like to know about it, really. And in my opinion, of course, which isn't seeming to count a whole lot, I want this thing to stop at Tacoma Street. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person I have is Jim Knapp.
Good morning, Commissioners. Hi, I'm Jim Knapp. I live at 4401 Southeast Risley Avenue in Oak Grove. Subject, light rail. Thank you for having the meeting last night. I don't know what you call it, Commissioners Meet the Commissioners Meet the Community. It was hosted by Paul Savas. Light rail. The citizens have been opposed to this from the beginning. The voters have never been given a chance to vote on it. My question is there a force promoting this project? And do you, the BCC, want this to borrow more taxpayer money on this project? Last night was another meeting. We couldn't get a straight answer out of the commissioners. There's a newspaper article came out in the Oregonian today. I think you've all seen it. It says, "Foes of light rail want to vote." Please, quit demonizing our citizens that are promoting fiscal responsibility, opposing more debt and higher taxes. Please give the citizens of Clackamas County the right to vote. Very soon, we'll be circulating petitions that'll give the citizens the right to vote. Thank you again for your efforts.
Okay, thank you. The next person I have is Les Poole.
It's a whole new year with a lot of the same issues. Les Poole, Oak Grove. Last August, I met some folks at Chautauqua. We were gathering signatures for the successful 386 petition for a vote on urban renewal so that it's no longer abused. Ironically, the Johnsons and others were discussing a petition for a vote on the library, and it's so sad that the Gladstone Library, of all things a library, is a controversial issue. And the reason it's controversial is that in 2008, the public really didn't get the fine print in Oak Grove and in Jennings Lodge that, golly gee, we get another empty building on McLaughlin, and I have no problem with Gladstone improving or building a better library, but now they're planning on building what I consider to be a palace that we can ill afford that will be subsidized by Oak Grove. It's over on Webster Road, very poor place for access for our community. And I think what Kevin alluded to earlier was that the citizens in Oak Grove who received literature about how great we were going to have more and better library hours were even given bookmarks, little bookmark, I still have mine, that the 2008 taxing district was going to give us more hours, and we got that. But I voted against the taxing district, the library district, in 2008, because being someone that tends to be well-informed, I knew that we were losing our library. At the time, there were other issues, so I didn't raise it, but I knew it would come back to haunt us. I didn't see how it would be dovetailed with what's going on in Oak Grove and in the rest of the area. Gladstone doesn't have any money to fix the city hall. They want to borrow against future urban renewal to help pay for this baby. It's a bad plan, and it's coming back to haunt the county, whether or not you folks created it or not. I think a lot of it is from the poor leadership of our previous chair. I won't mention her name, but her legacy doesn't sit well in our community. I do support a vote on light rail. Obviously, the citizens you're seeing here today are all coming to you from the coalition that I keep mentioning. I can promise you that it's growing. It is, folks. My phone's ringing off the hook. If Jim Knapp had another 30 seconds, I guarantee you he could tell you that every time I sit down with him, more emails and phone interruptions come in for volunteers. We're in a fiscal crisis, and it's a different world out there. And our credit card is maxed out. So I would hope that you'd step up. Let's get the light rail thing out front. And I'll close by saying that unlike the 388 fiasco and all the money that was spent on that and the divisiveness that came from that, in this case, if there is going to be a referendum or any response by the county, let's get after it now. Let's not play ring around the rosy. And let's please get that $25 million on the agenda this month. It was going to be there in mid-November. Get it on the agenda this month. Thank you.
Thank you. The next card I have is Karen Lee. Wasn't going to speak? Oh. So my understanding is you're just turning in written testimony and not speaking? Yes. Okay. Well, thank you. Well, that's your option to read it out loud. If you don't, we will accept it as written testimony. And that's always appropriate to turn in written testimony. And with that, I am out of cards, and so we will move on to the consent agenda, and I'll ask the clerk to read the consent agenda by title only.
Okay. The consent agenda. Under Health, Housing, and Human Services, we have approval of a substance abuse treatment services agreement with Volunteers of America for outpatient substance abuse services, approval of amendment to the intergovernmental agreement among Community Development, Service District Number 1, and the Development Agency for a sewer hookup program. Under the Department of Transportation and Development, we have approval of a contract with OBEC Engineers for consulting engineering services for the replacement of Salmon River Elk Park Road Bridge. Under elected officials, approval of previous business meeting minutes. And under the Water Environment Services, we have execution of a purchase and sale agreement between Mr. Silvio Carli and Clackamas County Service District Number 1. And that concludes the consent agenda.
I would consider a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I move we adopt the consent agenda.
Or
Approve
approve
consent
it.
agenda, sorry.
My mistake.
Second?
It's been moved by Commissioner Savas and seconded by Commissioner Bernard that we approve the consent agenda. Comments on the consent agenda?
Actually, I just wanted to note that the approval of the amendment to intergovernmental agreement among the Community Development Department, Service District Number 1, and the Development Agency for Sewer Hookup Program, which is an area that encompasses part of Milwaukee and part of unincorporated Clackamas County, because many of these homes, septics were failing. There was not enough room to actually replace the septic system. So the county stepped up, as well as the city, and helped facilitate putting in the sewer pipes and offering grants for people to hook up to the sewers. At the time, I was told as mayor of Milwaukee that no one would be hooking up, but I noted today that people are starting to hook up, and now there are 650 properties that have the opportunity to hook up when their septics fail. Otherwise, they would literally have to abandon their homes. They would have no value. Also, it has aided in the protection of Johnson Creek, which this year had a wild salmon run. So that's pretty exciting. So I'm glad to see this move forward, and this allows people to connect up at a much reduced cost. So I'm glad to see this move forward.
Thank you. With that, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. And that brings us to Commissioner communication. Maybe we'll start with Commissioner Damon.
I just have a couple things. I just want to thank everybody that came out to our roundtable last night. We had, what would you say, about 15 people maybe, looking at those of us that were there. We had a good conversation about a number of things, including the vote for Portland to Milwaukee Light Rail. And after the meeting, I did make a commitment to meet after our business meeting next week with Jim Knapp and some others, just to talk about, just to get a little bit more information about, what folks are looking for, kind of like what you were asking about, Les, about is there an opportunity to get ahead of this? So I'm going to have that meeting with some folks after the business meeting next week, and you're welcome to join us if you'd like to. And so I don't really have much else to say. I just appreciate everyone coming out. And also thank you to the McLaughlin Area Business Association. I think any opportunity that you can organize folks, it just provides a more, a better conduit of communication into a process like that. So I appreciate the organizing that you've done. So thanks.
Commissioner Bernard, anything?
Well, actually, I was reading this morning the governor's reset, public safety reset, and some of the topics the fact that crime has actually gone down substantially in the state, but our prison population is almost tripled. And a lot of that has to do with measures 11, that mandatory sentencing of individuals in jails, and the state really is looking towards redirection of tax dollars to where those tax dollars would provide the most benefit, and that is in community corrections. I serve on the Community Corrections Commission for the state, and we are looking at, well, there are huge budget cuts last year, and in my opinion, those budget cuts to community corrections have really harmed the opportunity to put people back into society. Millions and millions of dollars have been cut in community corrections, and yet our jails are full. California, 30,000 prisoners actually have to be released because of jail overcrowding. A lot of that also has to do with some of those initiatives that didn't allow judges the flexibility to put people on parole or probation or short-term in jail. Many of those have been sentenced to years in jail for crimes that are nonviolent. So there's a discussion going on in how we can invest in the public safety system in the most and get the most return for our investment. 94% of those people that go to prison do get out. The problem is, do they get out better or worse than when they went in? And so, science has gone a long ways. Treatment for drug addiction and other addictions have advanced substantially, and there is an opportunity to actually utilize those scientific skills to to allow people to become regular citizens. So the governor's task force has just issued a report, and from there the legislature will make some decisions on where best to invest their dollars. It's estimated that over the next 10 years, unless something's changed, it'll raise the prison population another 2,000 people. And those 2,000 people, many of those, since they're nonviolent crimes, are those people who are put into prison for nonviolent crimes are less likely to recidivate. I've always had trouble with this word. Recidivate. I have to look that up. Reoffend.
Reoffend is the word.
Are much less likely to reoffend, but when they go to jail, they actually are more likely to reoffend because they learn skills that they may not have had before. And once you go to jail, when you get out, what's your chances of getting a job? And they're diminished, I can assure you. Clackamas County has a great program that actually gets those people back to work. Housing's another big issue. Once you get out of jail, you ought to try looking for rent. A place to rent. I remember a gentleman who is well known from Dave's Killer Bread, Dave. He spent many, many years of his life in prison, and when he got out, I actually got a call to see if I knew somebody who had a house that they would actually rent to him because when he got out of prison. Well, you can see what Dave has done today. He's turned his life around. The business is growing. He's really investing in, turning the community around. Recently, I was at one of our youth facilities, and Dave was there speaking to the kids, and it was very, very impactful. So there are opportunities and investments that the state is looking at to reduce prison population and not have to build very expensive prisons. It's over the next 10 years, it's estimated $600 million to build the prisons to accommodate those 2,000 additional people. And I'm sure that report is available on the web. I meant to bring it out and so I could give you that information, but we may be able to put a link on our website for that report. Now, this is just a preliminary report. The legislature will take this up. I don't know if they'll do it in this early session or not. I doubt it. Well, they might because it's a funding issue. So I look forward to some changes and opportunities to turn this around. Crime, by the way, is down nationwide substantially. In New York City, it's down 45%, and their prison population is down, I believe, over 30%. And so it's kind of strange that our crime statistics are down, but our prison population continues to grow. So that's what the governor has asked to take a look at. So look forward to further discussions in that area. Thank you.
Excellent. Commissioner Leininger.
I want to note that in the last couple of weeks, we lost a great leader in our community, and I want to essentially pay a tribute to Chuck Clemens, whom many of you may know. He's the former superintendent of the Oregon City School District. He worked for years to support local arts programs. He helped master plan the art and some of the other features of the Clackamas County campus that's right here, and he's also served for a long time on the board of Clackamas Community College, and he did all of it with tremendous grace and goodwill and intelligence, and probably didn't agree with everybody at every moment, but I think he showed a spirit of working together that a lot of the people in this room also show, and a conviction to trying to make the community stronger that brings people to this room right now today and other days. And there'll be a memorial service for him held on Saturday, 2 p.m., Clackamas Community College in Randall Hall, and he was a great leader, mentor, friend, and he'll be missed. So thank you, Chuck, and to Chuck's family.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Well, I just want to just clarify one thing earlier. I believe one of the people testified, Jim, I believe, mentioned the roundtable. That's the name of the Clackamas County Commissioners Roundtable event we'll be trying to have every first Wednesday of every month. And it's really hosted by the county commissioners, though I did spearhead it. I appreciate last night most of our county commissioners here showing up, and that kind of gives it a lot more value. So, thank you for all showing up. It was a great discussion. And the next phase of this will be is to see what some of the top maybe issues that come out of that and possibly expand that into a town hall with maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of the top issues if I'm so successful doing that. I did want to just talk about where we're going this year. We have a new year before us, and I know I advocated last year for quite a while for sitting down for a day or two in a strategy session to figure out where Clackamas County is going to go in the future, next year, 5 years. And I'm going to continue to advocate for that this year as well. I really think it's important, especially on our discussions we've had about what's our role in Clackamas County. In the cities, it's quite limited. In the unincorporated areas, it's quite profound. And though our tax base comes collectively from all of that, I think we need to figure out where we invest and where we don't invest with the very few resources we have. We've made investments in urban renewal in the town center and government camp, in the North Clackamas revitalization area, in the North Clackamas industrial area. And, we have some remaining funds that are specified, collected in the town center area that need to be spent in that area by law. So that decision is pretty clear as far as where those monies go, but how we spend those. I'm hoping that we can leave that area as a model of success of urban renewal, in that we don't leave it blighted. We take care of some of those areas. We talk about blight as a reason to do an urban renewal, but yet we still have a lot of blight left in this 31-year-old district, and I think it's incumbent upon us to correct that with the remaining resources. we have to determine what we're going to do with some of the areas that we've been talking about. We've been spending a little bit of money and effort in the Stafford area. We spent some money and effort in the McLaughlin area, the Sunrise Corridor. I already spoke about the town center. There's also areas out and about the Canby Barlow area as far as transportation issues, getting to and from Canby, that are opportunities. And those are the kind of discussions I think we ought to have is I'd like to have that strategy discussion of how we move forward, what our priorities are, and what level of service and things we will do in the unincorporated areas, because that's our strongest, most profound role in Clackamas County is the unincorporated area. So with that, I hope we can be successful in 2012.
Thank you. And I would just, I guess, add on to that, another important area for Clackamas County is Mount Hood and the Mount Hood communities, the communities at Mount Hood. And I am pleased that they have been doing so well in the close through last year until the close of the year when we were very short of snow. So in the last week or so, there's been a lot of snow at the mountain. You can see it when you look out the window. And so I'm pleased with that for the economics of the tourism for Clackamas County and at the mountain. It's an important part of our tourism piece, and so I think it bodes well for a good new year on the mountain. And with that, I would like to close the meeting in honor of Chuck Clements and all that he has done for the county all these years. And with that, we are adjourned.